What's going on, everybody? Coming at you with the Ravens 2018 rebuild. If you're wondering why this isn't the Browns rebuild, well, that's because Andy Slezak, shout out to you, my man, longtime subscriber on the channel, recently joined the That Franchise Guy Patreon Nation, so he has requested to get this Ravens rebuild out there. Again, you guys can check out my patreon.com/thatfranchiseguy if you want to see your team sooner than later and check out some pretty cool benefits on there as well. So we got the Ravens here in an interesting situation. We're stuck with Joe Flacco, massive contract, massive cap hit if we were to try and do anything with him. So we're stuck there. Maybe we look quarterback in the draft, probably not in the first round, but maybe try to get a guy in here to compete. We got Danny Woodhead. I think he actually retires in this game though, so we'll work around that. But then Alex Collins needs to be re-signed. The running back situation and really these skill players overall, that's the focus this offseason for this Ravens team. It's trying to get this team to be competitive enough on offense to hopefully get the defense in an elite situation where you sneak in and you never know what happens in the playoffs. It's the AFC for one, pretty bad conference compared to the NFC. So this team's definitely still trying to win now. They are kind of stuck in a weird spot because of that Flacco contract, but they have enough talent, enough veterans to try and win right now. So the skill players definitely going to be the focus. Crockett Gilmore, I'll go ahead and move him to tackle. Probably not going to start in his first year, but that's an interesting project. Along the offensive line, we're pretty set, actually. I think the right tackle is a big focus, and re-signing Ryan Jensen. We'll see what happens there. D-line, very talented, very good. And then the linebacker situation as well, very deep. And we got CJ Mosley. We got our leader there. A little underrated in Madden, but total stud, IRL. And then in the secondary, Jimmy Smith getting up there in age, can't stay healthy. We do get Tavon Young back. He's rated pretty high here. That's a little unrealistic to expect him to come in and be a stud starting corner. Maybe we'll look at corner and some safety depth as well. But overall, going to be pretty aggressive here. Let's go ahead to the re-sign stage and talk about who we might consider re-signing here, as in real life, we're nearing free agency. So it does look like Danny Woodhead retired. Might that happen in real life? I think it's not happening at this point. We would have heard by now. But for the sake of this rebuild, we'll pretend this is a world where Danny Woodhead just got hurt again or actually did retire. So Alex Collins, definitely got to re-sign him. He was the main playmaker here, really the only guy in this offense that was able to step up. Now, Madden's going to have him asking for a 4-year deal. He's not going to get that. I think he gets, a 2-year deal for about $4 million a year, but we'll go ahead and give him what he's asking for in Madden just so we don't actually lose him. I got to do what we can to work around Madden's flaws here at receiver. We're going to let Mike Wallace go, but everyone else is coming back. Tight end Benjamin Watson's going to be leaving. So definitely going to want to focus on the tight end spot and receivers. Basically no depth here at those positions. We got James Hurst wants to leave, but I think we actually have pretty good depth on the interior. We really want to get Ryan Jensen back, but he just might test out the market. But he had a really good year, really good sort of young center here. Don't want this line to fall apart. We got a decent amount of cap space. I don't think we really have that much in real life, but I'm gonna make him a $6 million offer and see what he says. He still might not take it. He did take it, so that's good. We got our center back, which means we can really just kind of look at right tackle as the one position on the line that could be upgraded, but the rest of those positions are looking good. Let's go ahead and get to the first stage of free agency now. So going right to these skill players. Running back, with the departure of Woodhead, we definitely might want to look at like a Jerick McKinnon or maybe Theo Riddick, a guy who can be that third down back and really complement Alex Collins. I'm going to go ahead and make an offer for Jerick McKinnon right away here, although $5 million, we'll try and be realistic here. 5 years rather. You're not paying a 26-year-old running back who's never been a surefire starter a 5-year contract. So we'll see what he thinks about a 3-year deal. He does seem to like it, so we'll see what he does there. I like the idea of McKinnon, though, because he could potentially beat out Alex Collins if he incurred some good competition there. At receiver, personally, I know the Ravens fans are going to want Allen Robinson here. I don't think that's very realistic. For one, I don't see Jacksonville letting him go. I think they franchise tag him. I think they take a big, hard look at that and say, we don't want to let one of the best receivers in the NFL just leave. Even if he did hit the market, though, he's going to want to go to a team, no offense to the Ravens, but with a promising future, particularly on the offensive side of the ball. The 49ers, the Colts, a team with a solid quarterback. I don't see him saying, I'm comfortable going to play for Joe Flacco for the next 4 or 5 years. So I'm going to stay away from Robinson. I just don't think that's very realistic. But I do think Marquise Lee is a much more realistic situation here. I mean, he's a good, balanced, athletic guy. Could very well really, explode with a different team. He was playing with Blake Bortles. Joe Flacco, he's not great, but it's an upgrade from Bortles. I don't think he's a superstar receiver, but a guy that is probably going to get that Robert Woods contract and come in and maybe be as big of an impact as Robert Woods was with the Rams this year. So we'll go ahead and make him a decent offer. That's probably close to what he's going to get in real life. And then Josh Gordon hits the market as well. So our interdivision rival, Cleveland Browns, let him go. We got Torrey Smith sitting there too. Could absolutely see a return to Baltimore for Torrey Smith at the back end of his career, coming off a Super Bowl victory with the Eagles there. So Josh Gordon, he's not getting a 4-year deal, I don't think. I mean, he's got the off-the-field issues. He's probably not leaving Cleveland either, but I wouldn't be terribly surprised if things just didn't work out there. So I'm going to go ahead and give Josh Gordon a 2-year deal, $5 million a year. It works out with our cap situation. Might not accept that right away, but we'll see. And then at tight end, we are really hurting. Trey Burton, a talented receiver. He is a receiver, basically. He doesn't block a whole lot, but definitely adds a new dimension, especially with Joe Flacco. I feel like he's very tight end happy to have a guy with the run after catch ability of a Trey Burton. That could be a really good signing for this team. So we'll go ahead and see if we can get Trey Burton in here. Along this line, is there anyone here that we're really thinking about as a starting tackle ahead of Austin Howard? Not really. I don't think that tackle is going to be answered in free agency, maybe in the draft, maybe. But we're going to go ahead and pass on that. Haloti Ngata, longtime Raven. Do we bring him in to beef up that D-line? Perhaps. But really on this defense, we're pretty good. We got pretty good depth all across the board. We could probably use a little safety depth, but not in the first week. We're talking about a backup offer, maybe to a guy like, Corey Graham. So we'll go ahead and advance past the first week here. So we don't get Marquise Lee. That's quite unfortunate. I felt pretty good about that one, but we do get Trey Burton to come in and be a pretty much our number one receiver right away. Jerick McKinnon's getting tons of offers. I'm not quite comfortable giving him that much. Still got plenty of cap space, though. I'd rather pay Theo Riddick. I think he's actually more proven at what we're looking for in a third down back. So let's go ahead and give Theo about $5 a year and see what he thinks. So hopefully he likes that. Let's go back to receiver. Josh Gordon's starting to get offers here. The Browns want him back, and they're paying him 4 years. That seems a little risky for me if I'm the Ravens. But I do like the idea of bringing Torrey Smith back. This is definitely not the satisfying end to our wide receiver attempt at fixing this in free agency, but we do have the draft. Pretty deep class of receivers, not necessarily top heavy, but I like the idea of bringing Torrey Smith back home. And we did get Trey Burton, so we're at least adding weapons here. Maybe we get Theo Riddick, which would be a really good combination there with some good underneath receivers that can catch and run, perhaps make up for Joe Flacco's shortages. So we'll go ahead to week 3 here. So Theo Riddick's not interested. That's really unfortunate. None of these guys seem to really want to play here, which is not surprising. I think that's actually pretty realistic. No offense to the Ravens. I'm going to make an offer at Corey Graham as some safety depth here. We do have our 2 starters, but it can never hurt to have a good rotational guy. Looks like Haloti Ngata ended up going somewhere for a decent chunk of money. That's fine. We have a really good D-line. I'm not too worried about losing him. But let's just look at skill players one more time to make sure we're not missing out on some playmakers here. Maybe Rex Burkhead could be an option. Shane Vereen actually not getting any offers. And Charles Sims. Looks like Tavon Austin went ahead and got released. Not really interested in that, to be honest. How about Benny Cunningham? He's not going to be expensive. And I actually think he's a very fine receiving back. I liked him with the Rams when he kind of made that switch to receiving back. I really liked what he did for the Bears last year, but of course with Tariq Cohen there, didn't have a ton of opportunity. So he can definitely be our third down back. If I'm in charge of this team, I'm fine with that. Someone's coming after Torrey Smith. It's the Browns trying to steal away Torrey Smith. Why? Get out of here. All these receivers, I'm surprised how many of these guys are getting offers. Honestly, I'd rather go and pay like a TJ Jones, who was buried by a deep, deep core of receivers in Detroit, than pay Torrey Smith that much money to come back. So I'm gonna go for TJ Jones. We got to get somebody in here. We did lose Mike Wallace, so maybe he wants to come and play for us, because it doesn't seem that anyone wants to catch balls from Joe Flacco this year. See what that does, and then we'll be at draft day here. TJ Jones rejects our offer. Dang, nobody wants to play receiver for Joe Flacco. But we did get Benny Cunningham, so we got a third down back. We might look running back in the draft. Definitely going to be looking receiver in the draft, though. I mean, man, if we could have signed a couple of those receivers, then maybe you don't have to reach for a receiver in the draft. But now it's definitely in a spot where we're probably the number one wide receiver needy team in the league coming into the draft day, which is unfortunate because I don't see any of these receivers as true first-round talents. Let's see what happens at the top here just for fun. Cleveland goes receiver and middle linebacker. Okay. Two middle linebackers in the top 5? Every single rebuild, you're going to hear me complaining about the draft logic here. So I don't think the Ravens are going to trade up, especially if they're thinking receiver here. People often ask me how to get more involved and support TFG directly. Well, now you can. Pledging just $1 on Patreon means more than you know towards bigger and better creations. Becoming a Patreon now hooks you up with access to my personal Discord network, where you can slip right into my DMs. Get dibs on video priority to see your teams first, and tangible goods as well, like access to my personal NFL draft board grading every prospect you'll want to know about, and my tier-based fantasy rankings to help you beat your friends and take their money. And for the football junkies, you'll get my Vegas picks, where in 2017 we sniped the Eagles at 66-1 to win it all and went 2-1 picking underdogs. So that's patreon.com/thatfranchiseguy. Do it. Back to the video. I think there's a solid chance Calvin Ridley's available. I think that's a very popular mock here. But I do think there's talent in the second round at receiver, and talent that's not that far off from what Calvin Ridley offers. So I'm not necessarily stuck on going receiver here. There's going to be a run of tackles that go in this 16 to 45 range, really starting, I would say, with Arizona at 15 there. I have a feeling Mike McGlinchey is going to go first. He's probably the best tackle here. And then you're going to start to see teams maybe reach a little for linemen. So according to Walter Football, and again, I haven't done my linemen yet, I haven't done corners, and I haven't done safeties. I've done every other position, so I can provide my own opinions on those guys. But as far as tackle, corner, and safety, I'm really just going off of Walter Football for now. But we got Orlando Brown as the next best available tackle, Isaiah Wynn out of Georgia, Colton Miller out of UCLA, and Connor Williams out of Texas, whose stock apparently seems to be falling because I had seen him go top 10 a while back. So, I think this is probably the Ravens' best chance to get a starting right tackle is right now. It's not going to be in the second or third round because that's going to come after a run of reaches for tackles. So I think you kind of start the run here and then hope that on the back end you get paid off by seeing some running backs and receivers fall. And as we've seen more and more, it's the teams with offensive lines that are dominant from left to right that don't have a weak link like in Austin Howard that really put together good offensive teams. So we're going to go ahead and take a tackle. We'll call it Orlando Brown. Who knows who it would be at this range? Well, that's probably about right. You're probably looking at a guy who's coming in, as far as I'm concerned, as a 74 overall, a guy who's right around that starting caliber level. Definitely better than Austin Howard, though, I would think. And then the other thing is if you can have a good tackle duo, you are set. And they got the left tackle with Stanley. So I think that's a good move here to just get the tackle, take care of that in the first round. If the receivers were better, I would think differently. So sitting in the second round here, and Baltimore is a team I could certainly see trading up into that top 10 to picks or so in the second round. For time's sake, I'm not going to do that here. But maybe they trade up to get a receiver that falls out of the first round, maybe like a James Washington or Cortland Sutton. If they do fall out of the first, they look early on day 2 to move up and get a guy like that. But falling back here to the 20th pick in the second round, there's a player that I think is a perfect fit for Baltimore. I know it's going to be popular among Ravens fans as well. And some scouts might call this a reach at this point, but I really like at receiver, you stay in state and you take DJ Moore. Really physically gifted receiver out of Maryland, has some polish to his game as well. I've got him as a second to third round pick as the 6th best receiver in this class. I think he'd be a great fit here for the Ravens. So we'll go ahead and take a somewhat comparable sized receiver here. He's 5'11", 215, which is a thick looking receiver there. So we'll take Follow Goodwin, turn him into DJ Moore. So we're loading up on offensive talent here. And again, maybe they trade up to take a receiver earlier, but I think that'd be perfectly fine to get DJ Moore as potentially their number 1 receiver this year. But we're probably not done at receiver now in this draft. But we're going to skip ahead. Someone else they might consider in that situation would be a quarterback, but I think you got to just accept your fate that you're going to have to do what you can with Joe Flacco. I don't like the idea of drafting like Luke Falk there, and then you're just going to have Joe Flacco chilling on the bench with a $25 million contract. I think that's just a waste of resources, assuming Falk could beat out Joe Flacco in the first place. So we're sitting here in the third round. So I'm thinking either receiver or running back here. We didn't quite get everything we wanted in free agency. Ideally, you don't go receiver twice in the first 3 rounds for me, but there's going to be a lot of talent here, and you want to make sure you hit on one of these guys. If DJ Moore is a bust, you want to make sure you're getting another good receiver. So sitting here third round, who are you looking at? We talked about Deshaun Hamilton in that Vikings rebuild. Could certainly be a option here. One receiver who's one of my favorites in this entire class, who I think is going to be around this value here, might be considered somewhat of a reach, but a player I really like is Cedric Wilson out of Boise State. Big physical guy, so he's going to be kind of the opposite of DJ Moore. He's got some catch and run ability, though. He's not quite like some of these really big receivers in this class. There's a lot of 6'4", 6'5" guys in this class. Cedric 6'3", but he's 190, but he's fast, and he's got those big Julio Jones-like arms. He'll go up and get it, but he'll also make you miss, put a stiff arm on. Another good comparison would actually be Kevin White for Cedric Wilson. So we're going to take Cedric Wilson here in the third round. We might think about a running back as well, and maybe we look there here with our next pick. The second round to the fourth round is going to be money rounds for teams looking for running backs this year. So much depth. It is insane how deep this running back class is. So here, middle of the fourth round, I think we would have just missed out on like Bo Scarborough. Probably Akram Wadley is probably gone at this point. Kalen Ballage might be here. I think Ballage has a massive combine and actually goes into that third round. So I really like those guys, and I might have considered them at 3. But there's still going to be some good guys here that fall. And the biggest of which would be, for me, John Kelly. If you could nail John Kelly here in the fourth round, he's my favorite running back, maybe favorite player in this whole class. Very similar prospect to what I saw in Kareem Hunt last year. Just such good balance as a runner, and just doesn't go down, even though he's not overly physical or big. He's 5'9", 205, but he's just so well composed as a runner. I really like John Kelly. That's going to be the pick here. But of course, you might also consider Rashad Penny if he's here. I think he might be gone though. So we're going to take John Kelly, running back out of Tennessee. He's going to come in, and I think John Kelly would beat out Alex Collins personally. And then you just have Collins as sort of that goal line dude. So this guy's about the right size here, 5'11", 207. So we've really loaded up on some skill players now. And now getting into the fifth round, I think it's time to get a backup quarterback here. We don't have one currently. I think you're getting into the range. Maybe Kyle Lauletta is here, and that's definitely the pick if he is here. But you could also be looking at Chase Litton out of Marshall. I'm not a big Riley Ferguson guy out of Memphis. I would be between Chase Litton, if he's available, or obviously Kyle Lauletta. So we're just going to take best quarterback here. I'll make him Kyle Lauletta. I'll be optimistic and say that he falls. A good decision maker, quick release, and a really good Senior Bowl. Could be Case Keenum at the next level. I don't think he's ever going to be a stud, but could certainly be a good game manager type. Sixth round here, I'd honestly continue to throw darts at that receiver position if I'm the Ravens here. So looking deep here, in that 25 to 35 range of receivers. Darius Fountain out of UNI could be here. Corey Robertson maybe out of Southern Miss. What else do we got here? Who else do I like this deep? Definitely not as many guys that I like at this point. Alan Lazard out of Iowa State could be here. Big 6'5" dude. Deontay Burnett, good athlete, speedy guy out of USC. So any of those guys could be available here. We'll call it Darius Fountain for the purpose of this rebuild here. He might not be here this late. He's an intriguing guy that if he has a good combine, he could be certainly gone. And then back here, you're basically throwing darts. I like to take just kind of a big physical guy in the secondary, maybe a safety or a good corner with some athleticism. So how about a rare athletic corner here? And again, I haven't done my corner, so I don't know an example of who that might be in real life, but I like that move there. So that's a pretty solid offseason for the Ravens, I'd say. I would have liked to get a more proven veteran as a receiver, like a Marquise Lee, but you spend a second and third round pick and hope one of them can be your number one receiver. So I'm going to take a second to create these rookies, and then we'll run through the roster and sim the season and see what happens. I think this team has some hope in a poor AFC with a good defense and hopefully an improved offense. So just a quick recap here. We took Kyle Lauletta in the 5th round out of Richmond, be our backup quarterback. We grabbed John Kelly in the 4th round, one of my favorite players in the entire class. We'll see how Alex Collins plays. We might go to John Kelly. And again, these ratings are a little higher than I'm going to have them when I create them in my actual roster, because we are using EA's roster here, so we could skip ahead to our current timeline. But then we took 3 receivers. So we took DJ Moore in the 2nd round, Cedric Wilson in the 3rd, and Darius Fountain in the 6th. And then on our 1st round pick, we took a big mauler, Orlando Brown out of Oklahoma, 6'8", 360 pounds, kind of the ideal right tackle there. So a really good pick there for the Ravens in the 1st round, I think. And then defense, we only had 1 pick on that side of the ball the entire class, and it was Cameron Moore, our 7th round pick, just a guy out of Boston College there. So I do think we could use a little help along the defensive interior, just a little depth. So we're going to sign Keenan Robinson. And he's actually going to start at middle linebacker, I believe. And then maybe just someone on the defensive line as well. How about Brandon Meebane? That works. Well, hopefully we don't have an injury-ridden preseason like the Ravens have had lately. We get through week 1 all right. Got 1 injury week 2. Don't be bad. Alex Collins, dislocated hip. That's actually maybe the one player we wanted to get hurt so that we have an excuse to play John Kelly. Week 3, no injuries. That's a lucky break for the Ravens. I did want to see how Jeremy Macklin's been playing, though, because I'm thinking about releasing him. But it looks like he's doing all right, and Chris Moore has been killing it in the preseason. So it looks like Macklin's done enough, 10 catches in 3 preseason games, to at least earn that starting job for now. Let's get through the preseason here, hopefully healthy. And we do. So let's set the season goal. Again, it's a team that has Super Bowl expectations internally, but in reality, making the playoffs would be probably a successful year for this Ravens team. I don't think too many people think they're going to win the Super Bowl this year. I think they're like 55 or 50 to 1 or something to actually win the whole thing. But I would bet that their odds to make the playoffs are pretty decent. So we're definitely going to be playing John Kelly. I mean, Javorius Allen's a 79 in this game. Wow. At receiver, definitely going to want to move up these young guys. Chris Moore played well enough, it looked like, in the preseason to earn some snaps, but we're going to get CJ Wilson as the 3, and then we'll move Fountain up. Basically counting Brashad Perriman as a sunk cost at this point. And then the rest of this depth chart should be where we want it. I'm going to go ahead and start Tyus Bowser, though, at outside. And then at corner, we want Tavon Young as our nickel. And we'll look good there. Let's go ahead and see how this season goes. We got the Panthers week 1. Now that Vikings rebuild totally backfired on us. We were really bad there. But the Ravens here, for some reason, I have a feeling we're going to do a little better here. So we get a week 1 win How about week 2? We win. Let's see. How is our team looking? Are we scoring some points? Looks like we scored 34 last week. So Joe Flacco seems to be doing all right. John Kelly, not so much, but Benny Cunningham. Love to see DJ Moore having a good start. Jeremy Maclin, glad we held on to him. 2 touchdowns early. And then defensively, the move putting Tyus Bowser as our starter paying off early. 2.5 sacks. So good start. Let's keep moving here. Hopefully stay healthy. Knock on wood. Surprised my dogs didn't start barking there. 3-0, but we did get an injury. Brandon Williams, 4 weeks. Not the end of the world. We got some depth there on the D line. I'm just going to hope that's all handled on the depth chart. So can we get to 4-0? 4-0. And returning from injury is Alex Collins. So we have a decision to make on the depth chart here. Let's see how John Kelly's been faring. Wasn't too good those first few weeks, but how about in weeks 3 and 4? So not so well week 3 and not so well week 4. So I think we got to go back to Collins. We did pay him, so we're kind of invested in him. So can we get 5-0 in the bye week? We do. So we're in the bye week. We did have 2 players regress. What's that all about? Austin Howard and Alex Collins. So Alex Collins didn't have a good week either. But why is Austin Howard regressing? Why is he playing? Did we not start our rookie? All right, for some reason our rookie's not playing. So maybe getting a big mauler who's significantly better at run blocking in there, who we just spent a first-round pick on and is rated higher than Austin Howard, might work well for our run game. So Flacco's having a career year, 10 touchdowns, 4 interceptions. Looked like our receivers, actually Jeremy Maclin kind of carrying the load. Trey Burton, decent year. Cedric Wilson and DJ Moore. DJ Moore does lead the team in receptions. Defensively is slowed down a little bit. Willie Henry having a good year for us. Let's see, can we keep this thing rolling? This rebuild's going very well. So we got the Browns coming up, so that should be another win, I would think. 4-1 Saints. There's our first loss and an injury. Marshall Yanda, 3 weeks for a shoulder tear. We have the depth to handle that for now. We did play all of 2016 without him anyway. We'll plug Illuminor in there. That should be all right. Browns are 0-7. If they didn't take a receiver and a middle linebacker with their 1st and 4th picks, they'd be playing a little better. But we lost. We gave the Browns, so things starting to look a little worse here. The Chargers at home. Okay, another loss. We got the Chiefs. Another loss. We're going to be this year's team that starts off hot and then falls apart. Okay, at Raiders. Another loss. At Falcons. Another loss. Steelers. Oh my gosh. 7 straight. Come on, we can beat the Broncos at home. Yep. Okay, so we're 6-7. Hopefully we're still in contention in the AFC. Let's see. Not looking great, but there's a chance. Let's see statistically if there's any moves we need to make. Running game just not working this year. DJ Moore hasn't gotten in the end zone yet. I don't really know what moves I would make here. Boy, Willie Henry having a great year. We're just going to have to ride this out and hope we can recapture that early season magic. That's not the worst stretch there. That Week 17 game is going to be really tough against the Steelers. But would this not be the most Ravens season ever? 7-7. Come on, Browns. Get us to 8-7. 8-7. And a win against the division rival Steelers might get this team into the playoffs. That'd be one hell of a game. Looks like John Kelly's out for the year, but he wasn't playing all that well anyway. So let's just see. The suspense is killing me. I'm just curious. So if the playoffs started today, we'd be in. But we need to beat the Steelers. So let's see. Come on, Joe Flacco. Oh, we're in. 9-7. We made the playoffs. We did it. We got the Ravens back into the playoffs. And I actually feel like that's a crazy realistic rebuild. Like, I don't know if you're going to find a better, more realistic Ravens rebuild than that. Sneaking in the AFC at 9-7 and needing a win against the Steelers to do it. Now let's see what happens. Maybe we get another win against the Steelers. I wouldn't expect it, but never know. Yeah, we lost to the Steelers. But it was a good rebuild. We loaded up on offense. We actually finished 13th in offensive yards which is a big step up for the Ravens. So definitely paid off to invest in the line and the receivers. As far as our player stats went, that's a pretty good year for Joe Flacco's standards. The running the ball did not go well. A little surprised there. I thought the run game would be better, but the receivers played well. DJ Moore didn't get into the end zone, but he did have some decent numbers there. Probably would be considered a disappointing season, but we did say we just want one of these guys to pan out, and it looks like Cedric Wilson would actually end up being the guy after this. Doesn't totally surprise me. Defensively, some crazy production from those interior guys, but some lower sack production from the guys you'd expect. And my apologies, I'm only just now noticing that Terrell Suggs actually retired. That just shows you what franchise mode will do for you. There was never any clear notification to me that Terrell Suggs was gone. And obviously trying to do this a little faster, I completely missed that. So that explains a little bit of why the defense dropped off a bit. Terrell Suggs will be back next year. He was fantastic this year. So, hey, maybe we have an even better year with Terrell Suggs. But thanks again to Andy for the Patreon support. Hope you enjoyed your Ravens rebuild. Hope the rest of you guys enjoyed. Do like the video. If you did, do consider checking out Patreon if you want to see your team sooner rather than later. Cheers. We'll see you next time.